change. We are not afraid of competition. We are ready to take on the world, which, by the way, includes the big banks and the competition that they bring. In fact, we already have taken on the world, and I will show you how in a few minutes. I'll start with my industry's fears and then deal with the non-fears. Let me elaborate on two major fears that we have: overregulation and the concentration of power by the big Canadian banks. I want to state for the record that we are not afraid of regulation, but we are afraid of ineffective and overly complex regulation and confiscation. I don't want to imply that these are synonymous, but an incident from my own bitter experience proves the point. It goes back to my earlier days at Kon-Fed in the early 60s, when a large part of our business was being done in the Caribbean. Central America and the Commonwealth Caribbean were a stronghold for many Canadian life insurers in those years. In fact, when I joined Kon-Fed, we were very strong in 15 different countries, including Cuba, Trinidad, Jamaica, Venezuela, Colombia, Mexico, San Salvador, Guatemala. I've never really been able to find out why. The more cynical of us believe it was because the then executives wanted a 6-month trip every year. Others believe that the company's founders were genuinely missionary-minded and decided to take the product of life insurance to the unconverted on warm beaches. Anyhow, we were in Cuba in a big way in the early 60s, but we were in for a rough haul when Batiste, and after him Castro, decided to make the peso the only legal currency for any transaction in Cuba and to confiscate private assets. After a whole series of problems, we stopped writing new business in Cuba shortly thereafter, although we still have an office there. We also stopped writing new business in other countries where we could see the local governments were about to get tough on foreign business operations and where events similar to those in Cuba were certain to unfold. The Cuban experience taught my company two things. One, that the world does not end when a business venture fails. You just have to keep on moving, start afresh, and we have. The second thing the Cuban experience taught me was that business can only prosper when governments create an environment that encourages free enterprise and individual initiative. Let's look at this for a moment. In Canada, we don't need more laws and rules. Take the life insurance industry. We're already highly regulated. We're regulated not at one, but at 3 levels. Our companies are regulated, our distribution system is regulated, and our products are regulated. And each level is subject to a set of regulations that is independent of the others. No, we don't necessarily need more laws and rules. We need laws and rules that are in place to be better enforced. The lack of appropriate enforcement is precisely what caused the principal affair. And it's something that could happen again if governments ignore the laws and rules that do exist. That's something our industry is afraid of. Furthermore, the laws and rules that are in place should be harmonized across the country. Today, most of our industries' governing legislation and regulation varies from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, and this creates some absurd situations. Get that?